Good afternoon. I'd like to call this meeting to order. Our chair, John Calabrese, had COVID last week and is still testing positive. So we usually enjoy his infectious spirit, but he's keeping his infectious body home today. So just for our well-being. Call the roll first. Supervisors Bauer, Gilbert, Wilsey, and Calabrese are all present. Approval of the minutes. Can I have a motion to approve? Supervisor Bauer and Gilbert. Any discussion or corrections? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Okay, the minutes are approved. Any public comments? No. Okay. Staff reports. We have a request from Josie to begin. She's had to be online, so we'll start with child support.
Hello, thank you. Thank you for letting me go out of order. I have a middle game to get to. I don't really have anything additional to add to my report, but I will tell you that I've reached the point of the back scanning project where I'm now having dreams about it. So I'm looking forward to that project coming to a close because it's consuming me.
Any questions for Josie?
I want to know if the legal secretary's job is being filled. You're just going to leave that one open.
Eventually, I will leave it filled. So there's a little bit of strategy going on here. It would seem that my neighbors down the hall are also in the market for a legal secretary. So I don't want to compete against them. And they have we've been getting by without one, so I'm kind of, I don't want to say I'm giving them the opportunity, but I sort of am. I'm letting them fill their position before I recruit for that again.
Thank you.
Josie, I was interested in your report on how you think about your work and how the interactions with others help you think about it. I think it's really important for county agencies to serve people well and to give them a good experience, and you make a good point of that.
Yeah, thank you.
Curious. Go ahead, say more if you'd like.
No, I just, it was very, very interesting. Maria Lasecki in Brown County spoke very passionately about it. We are going to, our fall conference is being co-hosted by Brown County this year. So hopefully there'll be more shared about it at the conference here coming up in October. But that game board, I wish I had a way to share it with you. You could see what it looked like, but when the participants in their county, look at that, those game board pieces are actually interactive. So if you say, well, I want to do this by phone call, and then you click on that square and it gives you more information about who to contact and phone numbers, or, if not this, that. And they've had really positive results with that. So I don't know. I mean, like I said, they had a grant. So there was a lot of money put into that. And I don't know that, every county, unless they implement it on a statewide type basis, I don't think individual counties will do this as well, but it was very interesting anyway.
Okay. Yeah, I like the quote from Maya Angelou that people will forget what you said, people will forget what you did, but people will never forget how you made them feel.
That's right. And I think it's very true. Particularly in my office, if people have had poor interactions or even generationally, if somebody they knew in their family had a what they found to be a bad experience, people remembered that, and they don't remember what happened or who did it. They just remember that, the child support agency was an awful agency to work with. And so hopefully over time, we're able to reframe how people view us, because we really don't want to come across as being adversarial. at all. That's not our role. So we just need to remember to treat people well, and I don't know.
Help parents make a good life for their kids.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anybody else? Thank you, Josie.
Yeah. Thank you.
So CJCC next. Sarah?
One addition to the report, we were notified late last week that our federal family treatment court enhancement grant was approved. So we are getting over $185,000 for the next 3 years to support that program. So pretty exciting news.
Yeah, money coming in is always good news.
That's right. That's right.
Any questions or comments? You mentioned hosted DOJ and Sprocket.
So one of our grant managers from the Department of Justice came up with a couple of technology people with Sprocket. It's a company, and they really look to the gamification of technology to get. The idea is, our games and gadgets and things on phones keep people engaged, right? So it's taking that kind of know-how and applying it towards good and other things that we want people to do, like go to treatment and follow through with their treatment activities. So this is a company that really came and did a site visit to the 5 different sites to learn more about what each site is doing, so they can look to develop some technology. So we have our partners up in Superior Police Department is going to be the first to partner up with Sprocket. And we'll see down the road if it's something that we find helpful or could be helpful. But at this point, we were just really kind of showing them the activities that we have going on up here with Project Hope.
Okay. Anybody else? All right. District Attorney's report. Andrea.
The only thing I'll add is this last week we were notified that our continuation grant for victim witness, the federal grant, we received notice that we've been awarded that for next year. So it'll be $115,000 for that federal grant that we'll receive. And then we receive the state money as well. But they're different grants.
Appreciated the good words said about Marcia.
Yeah, you talked a lot about it. Sounds like she's gonna be well missed.
Yeah.
You said you posted the position and interview, and now you're reposting and couldn't find anybody that was qualified.
Yeah, I did interviews for the victim witness coordinator as well, and so it's just a more attractive position, I think, victim witnesses than legal secretary. But I also thought, given the pay, I was expecting a lot more candidates. So I didn't get that many applications. So we're going to give it another shot and see if I get some more.
Is being Mrs. Santa Claus one of the requirements?
No.
Anybody else? Okay. Next up is emergency management. Melissa.
I just had one thing to add for emergency management. Last spring, when I talked about the flooding that we had, I talked about the township of Springbrook had a lot of flooding in that area. And I did want to just let you know that they notified us late last week that that they will be receiving reimbursement and some funding, one, to improve the roads, but at bare minimum, bring them back to what they were prior to the flooding. So that was good news because they ended up having I think it was close to $70,000 worth of damage down in the township of Springbrook. So we were happy to hear that. We're still waiting on the 2 residences that were, did have some issues with the riverbank kind of eroding. So we're still working on that, but we were happy that the township of Springbrook will get some assistance on that. And then as far as the 911 center, I know I put it in almost every month's report, but we had another resignation and he'll be leaving on Friday. So that does put us below minimum staffing. So still struggling to get people, and you know, same thing. We do get applicants, but maybe not as many as we would like. So still working through that hiring process.
Any questions or comments? Supervisor Ball.
Did he take a sheriff's position in Barron? Is that what he did, Ethan?
No, he took a police officer job with the city of Barron.
Barron, okay.
Mm-hmm.
And did match qualifications for Dunn County, or just we're always looking for somebody, then he goes somewhere else? I'm giving you a hard time now. I just let him walk out the door.
I think his starting pay in Barron was significantly higher than what we could offer here. So
I mean, he won't even buy your truck from you now. He lets the guy
right.
Anybody else? A medical examiner.
Good evening. I do not have any additions to the report.
I was just curious what kind of testimony medical examiners usually have to provide at trial.
We provide testimony, including our investigation into the death, as well as chain of custody and authorization of autopsy. And our office is also responsible for signing the death certificates, cause and manner of death as well.
Anybody else?
Thank you.
Okay. Sheriff's office.
I guess the only addition would be, I'm happy to report that this week I will be fully staffed in my jail, and October 8th or 9th, I have 2 more deputies starting that will technically be fully staffed on patrol. So, of course, there's 14 weeks of field training that come with that, assuming they all make it through their probation period and training period. But no, staffing is starting to look better than the gloom and doom it's been the last few years. And so we got some good applicants and doing field training right now. One just finished his test out field training today. And so after today, he'll be on his own, and so schedule's looking better. But I think that's all the addition I have for now.
Questions, anyone?
Yeah, I was just curious. You know, you said you hired a former Menominee police officer, and then you took one from Chippewa. Is that causing friction between the stealing from each other, or is that just not?
I was not really. I always tell sheriffs I'll never steal a deputy from them if I can avoid it, but I'm not going to turn them down.
Yeah.
But the police departments are fair game. So
yeah. Talked about UTV accidents. Are they singles? Are they multiple?
Had some UTV versus vehicles. Most of them have been single, impaired driving, rollovers, things like that. So they're I don't know if I remember if I put the numbers in there. We've had 20 since July 1st, and from January to July 1st, I think we had 21 total, and now we've already had 20 since July 1st. So this opening the county highways sure seems to either that or a lot more people are buying UTVs, and that really probably happened, you know, through COVID and stuff when people they couldn't keep them in stock. And either that or people are just getting out and using them more now, but we're having a lot more incidents reported and crashes involving them. So something we're just going to have to keep an eye on.
I mean, most of the roads open, they're probably not on blacktop roads. They're out in a dirt trail somewhere in the middle of the woods? Is that how you find them, or is that?
Yeah, most of them are actually, we've had a few off-road trails, but a lot of the crashes have happened on roadways that are ATV, UTV routes. Some of them on county highways, some of them on town roads, but yeah, it's been a mix.
Anybody else?
Hey, Sheriff. I watched the executive committee meeting and I noticed they ask you a lot of questions about the budget.
Yep.
I don't know if this is kind of my first go around on this, so I don't know if that means they're looking at cutting. How is that going to affect you, your department, if they do some cutting?
Well, I think my two biggest concerns are my positions that I've requests that I put in for. My biggest concern is probably my jail sergeant. I'm looking for 24-hour supervision in there. It's no secret, you can look back on the counties being sued for multi-million dollars and it's related to their jail. St. Croix County, not so many years ago, I happened to be talking to the St. Croix sheriff a couple days after the last meeting, and he said, man, I don't know if I'm going to get my last jail sergeant so I can go 24-hour supervision. He said, well, I'll give you $6 million reasons why you should have 24-hour supervision in their jail. They've lost a lot of money over the years. Polk County's been sued, St. Croix County's been sued, and it's all related to their jail. And it's the highest liability. People are sitting in there with, frankly, nothing better to do other than come up with reasons to sue the county. And there's a lot of jailhouse lawyers, and they sit and study, and they have maybe a defense attorneys working for them pro bono because they'll get a little money out of it if they can sue a county. So with the younger staff that I've got in my jail right now, of course, they pick shifts by seniority. So the youngest people end up on nights and weekends and stuff. The people with more seniority don't want to work. So it's not like I can push somebody with more seniority and experience and give them supervision responsibilities if I don't have the position. I would promote somebody from within to sergeant with years of experience, and then hire an additional staff for that. The other one's related to a rec deputy position that is funded about 60% by the state for ATV, UTV, snowmobile, boating enforcement. We're really just kind of putting a Band-Aid on it right now. And there's a clear need to have enforcement out there. The ATV, UTV associations want it. The snowmobile associations want it. They want us out there enforcing the stuff because they don't want people out there tearing up the trails and losing their privileges, So, otherwise I haven't heard much about what else they're looking at cutting out of my budget, but it's certainly going to impact our operations if it's cut severely.
Now, granted, I didn't watch the whole meeting, so I just watched your part. So I don't know if and I haven't heard anything, but you can kind of read between the lines sometimes. So,
yeah.
And asking a lot of questions. So.
Yeah, it's certainly going to hurt if our budget's cut. I'm always looking for other revenue sources, but I'm not in the business to make money. It's technically illegal for me to profit from an arrest, right? So, but outside sourcing our open jail beds is something I'm constantly looking at. Maybe entering a contract again with the state, but that comes with costs as well. Additional medical and food costs, and looking at contracting with other counties where maybe they can assume some of the medical costs. One of the scary things we had happen when we were housing state inmates is we had one of our county inmates get in a fight with one of the state inmates, busted him up pretty bad. He ended up in the hospital. We were looking at a $20,000 bill, so it comes with risk, with a little bit of revenue. So you look at the dollars and cents and say 51.46 a day or 54.46 a day, what the state will pay you. Sounds great. I could make, if I open up 15 beds to the state, roughly $290,000 in revenue for the county, but how much are you going to pay that out? And, legal fees if they sue us, medical costs if somebody gets injured, because the state doesn't assume any of those costs. So, but it's something I always keep an eye on, looking for additional revenue to offset the the ask of the taxpayers, because I know my agency is a large burden on the taxpayers, and it's understandable. We don't have the grant funding available, you know, that they do for special programs and stuff, but not for your everyday correction staff and patrol staff out there. The money's not there, other than a tax burden on the Dunn County citizens.
Thank you. One other question, different subject. I've been over the COVID thing for a long time. Not going through that anymore. My grandma's 96. She's in the neighbors now. And we just got an email from Carmen that they're requiring mask mandates. Now, I am going to go see my grandma, and I'm not going to wear a mask. How does the sheriff department feel about that?
You're in the city of Menominee, so we probably won't be involved at all.
Okay.
You're under their jurisdiction
Fair
and
enough.
authority. That's the most politically correct way to put it.
All right.
Supervisor Vandermeulen, if I may.
Yes.
If you can you hear me all right?
Yes.
Sheriff, thank you for that, and thank you for the questions, Supervisor Wilsey. In terms of the executive committee, that meeting was the longest one I've ever been a part of in the county, last 2 Wednesdays ago. And in the tenor of the meeting and of any other conversations I've had is nobody is thinking of cutting the sheriff's department, but I think it's likely directed in that direction because there's a request for 2 positions, and so I think people on the committee, just my own take is that, well, they're asking for 2, so what's more important, and as a place to just get to a balanced budget. But I really appreciate what you said about your discussion with Sheriff Knudsen, and I will relay that information to them, and it really sort of changes my perspective on all of it. I do not want to have to make a decision of one or the other, especially given that you just detailed the increase in accidents due to the increased access to roads for ATVs and UTVs. A question about that rec officer. Are there any stipulations about remaining on trail systems, since you said a lot of the accidents happen on roads? Like, will they be patrolling on UTVs themselves, and then will they be going out on roads and patrolling them as well, or how would that work?
Yeah, it would be a combination. We have a UTV set up for patrol on off-road trails, which there aren't many in Dunn County. Most of our trail systems are routes on roads, which a lot of it they can do by vehicle, but obviously on the off-road trails off-road trails, we have a UTV set up for enforcement on in those areas as well. So it'd be a combination of things, along with the snowmobile enforcement and boating enforcement. We have a patrol boat set up that we work now on limited hours out on the lakes in Dunn County.
Okay, thank you. And one more question on that grant funding for the seatbelt enforcement. Would that go to like advertisement to the public, awareness, or what does that money go for?
The money, it's a total of $50,000, and that's spread out over a year. The $50,000 is basically to pay for overtime for the deputies' time to work. There is some match, but that usually comes in, our administrative time, my captain's time to administer the grant, some mileage match. I can't remember. It's been a while since I've administered the grants, but I think it's like 25% match. So the hours spent administering the grant, and maybe some vehicle mileage and stuff we can use for match funds. Otherwise, that $50,000 is pretty much to go towards to pay the officers overtime to cover those hours, enforcement hours.
Okay, thank you. And just want to say thank you for the work. I think when people think of what goes into being a sheriff, they aren't necessarily thinking of the time spent looking for grants, looking for revenue, and writing budgets. So appreciate it. Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Add to the earlier discussion, the only time I've served on a jury, the case was an inmate suing a jail because he had been, he'd flipped his car when they caught him, and apparently didn't examine him carefully enough. Later, a month or two later, it turned out he had a cracked vertebrae in his neck, and so sued them for inadequate medical attention, basically. So, yeah.
Pretty common.
Yeah, he didn't win the suit, but but you know,
there's a lot of cost involved. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, anybody else? Okay, it's item 6 and 7 are basically none. So consideration of reports, resolutions, and ordinances. The first one is the sheriff's office budget adjustment. See anything that needs to be explained about that, Sheriff?
No, I kind of covered it in Supervisor Calabrese's questions, but it's $16,700 request for a budget adjustment for this year, which is 1/3 of the $50,000 grant. So we can spend starting September 1st through the end of the year, October 1st. I don't remember here now. And then we will ask for a budget adjustment, or I can't remember how that goes, for the 2024 budget to accept that into our budget at a later time, was how it was recommended that we pursue this.
Okay. Can we have a motion to approve the budget adjustment request by the Sheriff's Office? Tom and Bob. Okay, any discussion? All in favor, say aye. Any
Aye.
opposed? Okay, the budget resolution passes.
Thank
District Attorney's Office. Any more brief summary of that, Andrea?
So this is something that we've been working on. It's been 21 months now. And we finally have made progress and feel like we've worked out some of the bugs. And really, this is the police department and sheriff's department that, you know, it'll be beneficial for us too, but they are really sick of burning discs and want to be able to send a link to our office so then we can then download it and upload it to a system. And so what we've been doing right now just isn't really time efficient and economical, because we're burning discs and flash drives and hard drives. And so part of our problem is the district attorney's IT department does not have storage for, you know, it's just this IT world that we're in. And again, I'm not going to go on my high horse, but I miss the old days where you just put up an officer but I'm trying to work with the times here, and these body cameras are not going away. They are huge files, and we are just, you know, drowning in data. And so I think the thought was, in working with our group, that we need to get going on this now. It's already in our budget for 2024. And so the request is for $30,000 so we can purchase a program. I don't think we've finalized what program. We have it narrowed down to a couple, but it would be so my office can then store these videos and then share them by clicking out a link to defense attorneys.
So the funding is primarily for storage.
Yes.
Okay. Do they have artificial intelligence that will look at the videos yet and find the places in it where that are most interesting or relevant for you?
Yeah, I wish. Yeah, so when a case will actually go to trial, there'll be a lot of time spent watching these.
I'm sure.
Yeah. But, you know, when we had that officer involved shooting, it was really beneficial. So, I mean, they do have their benefit. It's just very time consuming.
And we have a motion to approve the district attorney's contingency request. Bob moves. Supervisor Gilbert, 2 seconds. Any discussion further?
Yeah, I got one more question, if you don't mind, so during the discussion stage. After what happened to Sacred Heart Hospital and Oakleaf Surgical Hospital when they got hacked on their computers, and you guys still got to go to court, even though let's say your computers get wiped down, do you have a backup system in place, or what have one in place to actually continue?
Yeah, this is, through a cloud storage. It's not going to be like on our servers or anything. There's certainly a concern for that. And then my understanding is the law enforcement agencies still have their own. I think the police department has a cloud-based and the sheriff's department is server-based, which is going to have to get upgraded one of these days too. So it's just large files.
Thank you.
Yep.
Anybody else? Okay, we have a motion. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, the same? Okay, the motion carries. Yeah, it sounds that way.
Thank you.
Yeah. And we have a request from the clerk of courts to transfer funds. Katie, brief summary.
Yep. So I've been contacted by our IT department. Some of the equipment in our courtrooms is now outdated. They're saying technology evolves really quick these days. So in order for us to connect to Zoom, there's a feature called a Zoom room. So our provider is suggesting that we implement this Zoom room feature that will coincide with the county's IT system. And it's also going to work paired up really well with the judge's Zoom account that's provided by the state of Wisconsin. We don't see Zoom going away anytime soon. So they approached me in February of this year. And of course it wasn't budgeted for funding, but due to one of our part-time positions going full-time, we have leftover unused health insurance funds. So I've worked with our finance department to see if we can use those funds to see for the project this year, if the Judiciary and Law Committee would support that request. So that's essentially all that it is, the request is for today.
Can I have a motion to approve the request to transfer funds? Okay, Luke and Bob seconds. Any further discussion or questions? Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same. That motion carries. Okay, any announcements? Next meeting, October 23 at 4:30. And if there's nothing else, we're adjourned. Thank you.